a strong woman, 72 years old. Her daughter asked her to leave. No shouting, just a trembling hand closing the door to the room she'd lived in for months. She walked out, carrying 2 worn-out fabric suitcases, one in each hand, and a heart that felt like it might break. Her daughter, the one she loved most, the one she had given up everything for, had kicked her out of the house that now bore her daughter's name. Her daughter wouldn't meet her eyes after dinner. There was no fight, just soft words. "Mom, I think you should go back to the countryside. I'm sorry. We just can't afford to take care of you anymore. It's too much." Her voice was cold, flat. Her husband held their baby in silence, just like always, too afraid to speak. She didn't answer. She held on to the last shred of dignity, holding back tears, telling her shaking hands to be still. Back in her room, she quietly packed. She opened the drawer and pulled out an old photo of her and her daughter, years ago. My sweet girl. I'm old now. I'm not a superhero anymore. Just an old, useless woman. Tears fell without sound. She sat down and began writing a letter by hand. "I don't need anything. I just want to be near you and my grandchild. If I've done anything wrong, please forgive me." But she remembered her daughter's words. "Mom, don't write those emotional things. I don't have time to read them." She quietly tore the letter into pieces. She didn't sleep that night. She finished knitting a tiny pair of gloves for her grandchild and stitched the words "with love" onto them. The next morning, she placed the gloves in a small gift box with a note. "Grandma had to go take care of something important. Be good and listen to your parents." Before she left, she went to the bathroom mirror. She stood there for a long moment, smoothed her silver hair, straightened her old collar, then whispered to herself, "I'm still me. I'm not worthless." Her daughter waited at the door, avoiding her gaze. She didn't say, "Mom, stay. You understand, don't you?" Her voice cracked, half apology, half escape. "I'll be fine, don't worry," her mother said softly, just loud enough to soothe the guilt in the air. Then she reached for the 2 old suitcases. Her hands were trembling, but her eyes were clear. Her back was straight, and she walked out the door without looking back. Sometimes people ask her, "How do you still live with kindness after your own child sent you away?" She places her hand on her chest and gently replies, "Because I still believe. There's one who sees everything. When no one else does, he still sees." This story isn't here to blame anyone. It's just a reminder. Someone is growing old day by day, still loving you, in their own quiet way. Years ago, when her daughter was still a child, she skipped meals so her little girl could have enough to eat. She worked in the rain and scorching sun until her back curved with age. She once shivered with a fever, still doing laundry for others, just to afford medicine for her sick child. All of it was for her daughter. And now, not a single hug, not a single tear. After her husband died in a construction accident, she learned to live frugally. She saved every cent she could to pay for her daughter's tuition. The day her daughter got into college, she hugged her mother and cried. It was the only time she truly showed gratitude. Her daughter? Practical, distant, easily stressed, short-tempered, often said hurtful things without realizing it. At 52, the mother developed joint pain, numb hands, but never complained. By 70, she had mild Parkinson's and an irregular heartbeat. Still, she stayed silent. She always carried a small, worn piece of paper in her old cloth bag. Its ink faded. On it a quote from Mother Teresa. Not all of us can do great things, but we can do small things with great love. Whenever her daughter yelled and threw things around, she stayed quiet. She had built a quiet strength. She didn't fight back. She simply watched and tried to understand. She would go outside and tend to her little garden, just to ease her heart. When her grandchild cried from teething pain, she held the baby gently and let it chew on her finger. Her daughter snapped, "Mom, that's not hygienic. I told you not to do that." She withdrew her hand without a word. The baby kept crying. Her daughter, so sure of modern parenting, looked down on the way her mother cared. "Don't give her honey, Mom." She had made a warm honey drink, like she used to for her daughter. Her daughter saw it and exploded. "Are you trying to upset her stomach? Nobody does that anymore." She quietly poured the drink down the sink. Her love was misunderstood, seen as outdated, useless. "You're spoiling her. Who's going to deal with that later?" One time, she snuck the baby an extra cookie. Her daughter shouted, "How many times do I have to say it? She needs discipline." The baby cried. The grandmother just held her tight, eyes filled with tears. Once long ago, she had cared for her daughter with all the love in the world. And her daughter used to say, "I love you most, Mom." When she was sick as a child, her mother sat by her bed all night, placing warm cloths on her head, fanning her, feeding her spoon by spoon Evan while running a fever herself. "Can you breathe okay? Are you cold? Does your head hurt?" She would whisper over and over. She walked to the pharmacy barefoot once, traded her last pair of earrings, just to buy the best cough syrup available. No daughter sees her as a burden. When her joints hurt, her daughter handed her a bottle of pills and shut the door. No questions asked. One night, she was coughing uncontrollably. Her daughter groaned, "Mom, I can't take this. I have to get up early tomorrow." "Just drink some warm water and sleep." She choked back sobs, slowly made her way to the kitchen, poured herself a cup of warm water. She didn't turn on the light afraid of being scolded for wasting electricity. She rubbed pain oil quietly in her room. But the sound of the cap irritated her daughter, who burst in and snapped, "Mom, can you please be quiet? The baby just fell asleep. Don't you realize how annoying you are?" And now, when her daughter sees her as a nuisance, she speaks the words aloud. "You should leave, Mom. Maybe you've never told your mother to leave. But maybe you've raised your voice when she fed your child at the wrong time. Maybe you told her, 'Mom, go rest,' but your tone wasn't kind. Maybe you felt frustrated when she offered a suggestion, even if it came from love. You're hearing her story. But maybe, just maybe, you're also seeing yourself. The long, exhausting years of raising your child. The plain rice porridge. The sleepless nights beside their feverish little body. Then one day, you become the old person in the house. No one asks, "Mom, are you tired?" No one sees that you're still loving them in the quietest way. This story isn't just hers. It's meant to help you see yourself gently. No one knew she wasn't unemployed. She quit her job willingly. The arthritis in her hands had worsened, and the doctor told her it was time to stop bussing tables and washing dishes at the small diner she'd worked in for years. Her boss wanted her to stay. She was kind, dependable, and loved by the customers. They even offered her lighter duties. But she quietly stepped away, for the sake of her own health. Because even if no one else did, she still cared about herself. Inside her old cloth bag, hidden beneath faded notebooks, was a debit card. In her name, Hardly anyone even knew she had an account. Many years ago, she inherited a piece of land from her parents, a small lot on the outskirts of the city. She used it to grow vegetables and quietly paid the yearly taxes. Everyone in the family had called it worthless. But when a new highway project was announced in the area, the land was purchased for over $1 million. She never told anyone. She invested it quietly. The very land they all mocked became her turning point. 4 months before her daughter kicked her out, she had invited her to move in to help take care of the baby. She was overjoyed, finally living close to her daughter and grandchild again. She even sold her old crumbling house, thinking she wouldn't need it anymore, and received another $700,000. When she walked out of that house, she told no one about any of it, because she understood something deeper. If they stop loving you when you're poor, you shouldn't try to buy that love back when you're rich. That night, she didn't go to a hotel. She went to a shelter. Not because she lacked money, but because that's where others lived. Others who had been abandoned by their families, just like her. At the shelter, she volunteered doing simple physical therapy with the residents, listening to the stories of those forgotten by society, but still resilient. There, she felt seen again. Her healing didn't come from her daughter's apology. It came from her own strength cooking meals, helping the poor, opening small classes, transforming lives. She began sharing her story with strangers, listening to theirs, and smiling again. She baked treats for those abandoned by their families because she knew exactly what being forgotten tasted like. That act was as warm as a cup of ginger tea on a cold day. The first time she baked bread at the shelter, a young volunteer asked, "Why go to so much trouble? These people will eat anything." Sprinkling sugar on top, she replied, "Not if their hearts are cold. Sugar won't taste like anything at all." Her name is Doña Carmen, 73. Her roommate once said, "I used to sell tamales to raise my son, but he kicked me out, said the house was too small. His wife didn't want to live with an old woman. One night, when my son had a fever, I carried him for almost 2 miles through freezing wind to the clinic. My legs were giving out, but when he cried, 'Mama, my head hurts,' I held him tighter and walked faster. Now, he says, 'Mom, you being here stresses my wife out. I'm not angry. I just don't know what to do with these hands that once cooked for him every day. Now nobody needs them.'" They looked at each other silent, letting the past speak for itself. Children aren't cruel because they're evil. Sometimes they're just blind to what their mothers gave up. At this shelter for elderly women, she found something again. I'm still alive. There's still someone to talk to. No more wondering, did my child think of me today? Her first week at the shelter, she tried to cook soup. But her hands, shaky from arthritis and mild Parkinson's, spilled the entire salt jar into the pot. That night, everyone ate quietly, faces stiff, blinking, no one daring to speak. One elderly woman finally whispered, "Maybe tonight's flavor is the cook's tears." She thought she was being criticized. Her face fell, and she began to apologize. But then another woman burst out laughing. "Sweetheart, your soup could replace 4 fluids from now on." The whole room laughed, and so did Shay for the first time in days. From then on, they called her the salty-hearted chef. Doña Carmen once shared, "I used to clean house for an old blind man. One day, I accidentally knocked over his teacup while mopping. I was terrified, but he just said, 'Just wipe it up. Don't be afraid of mistakes. If you mess up, fix it.' That's when I learned. No one had ever taught me forgiveness before." A few months later, she quietly bought an old building with her savings. 2 weeks later, it was transformed. Fresh roof tiles, clean beds, wide rooms, a garden, soft music, audiobooks. A haven for elderly women with nowhere else to go. They cook there. They read. They meditate. They breathe again. No one knows she's the owner. She simply introduces herself as a volunteer. That's how she wants it. She doesn't want headlines or medals. Just a warm place for an old heart to rest. A place where everyone has a seat. She began donating quietly to orphanages, nursing homes, patients with no hope. She never left her name. Only a small handwritten note, so no one gets left behind. The one who gives is never poorer. The one who hoards is never richer. She often says that when passing out bread in the kitchen, and what about her daughter? She was facing her own crisis. Laid off from work, drowning in debt, constant arguments at home, rising bills. Then one day, her husband left just a message on the table. "I can't take this anymore." Desperate, she sold their home below value just to pay off creditors. Now homeless, broke, holding her child, she stumbled into a shelter, never knowing her own mother was there. It was pouring rain. She stepped inside her first time asking for food. Head bowed, ashamed. No one recognized her as the woman who once kicked her own mother out. The smell of warm bread filled the room. A radio played softly in the background. A middle-aged woman with sun-kissed skin stood ladling soup, her hands steady. It was her mother. She didn't recognize her at first, only a strangely familiar figure. But her mother had known the moment she walked in, child in arms. She said nothing, just ladled a bowl of soup and placed it gently in front of her daughter. No lecture, no hug, just, "It's cold out. Eat something warm." The little child, pale and trembling from the cold, burst into tears at the sight of her grandmother, reaching out, wanting to be held. Grandma scooped her up, fed her, comforted her, gave her a toy. And soon the child was laughing, as children do, quick to cry, quick to smile. The daughter looked up, eyes red, and whispered, "Mom, can I stay the night? Just tonight. I'll be gone tomorrow." Her mother stepped closer, wrapped her arms around her. For the first time in years. "Not just tonight. You can stay, as long as you need." The daughter broke down in tears. And outside, the rain poured harder, as if it were washing away all the coldness and misunderstandings. That night, her mother showed her a small room with a bed. "This room is yours, not because you're my daughter, but because no one deserves to sleep on the street." Lying side by side under a wool blanket, her daughter whispered, "I let you down, Mom." Too tired to speak more, she fell asleep. Her mother gently brushed the messy hair from her face and quietly cried. The memories came rushing back. Rough hands scrubbing school uniforms. Her laughter while making warm rice milk. And the last image. Her mother walking away with a suitcase, not saying a word. Now they were reunited, in a way no mother would ever wish for her child. The next morning, her daughter tried to say sorry. The words caught in her throat. But her mother understood. She laid a hand on her shoulder, gave a soft pat, and said, "I accept your heart. That's enough." She stayed, volunteered to clean the kitchen, wipe tables, sweep the floors. Bit by bit, she became part of the place. Soup simmered, knives chopped onions, and side by side they worked. "Are you still mad at me, Mom?" she asked one evening. Her mother smiled. People are remembered, not because they're famous, but because they lifted us on the days no one else did. "Someone once lifted me," Now, I'll always lift you, no conditions. A tear fell into the soup, not from pain, but forgiveness. Her daughter whispered, "Karma may come late, but it never loses its way. Kindness always grows, sometimes from the most unexpected soil." "Why didn't you tell me about the land and the money?" she asked one night. Her mother replied, "Because I needed to know who'd stand beside me when all I had left was me. And was it worth it? If back then you had come to ask for advice instead of pushing me away, I still would have given it. But let's not go back. We're making soup together now, aren't we?" From that moment, she began building something new. She started a reading corner, where women sat together each evening with tea and stories. One day, a letter arrived addressed to her. A job interview, an accounting position her old field. She opened the letter with shaking hands. "Congratulations, sweetie," her mom said. "You've got this. I believe in you." Still unsure of herself after losing her last job, she chose her best outfit. She walked in with quiet confidence. She didn't get a glamorous role, just an assistant position. But it was enough. Enough to start over. Then, one day, she found a notebook tucked under her pillow. Inside, a note. "To my daughter. I miss the days when you were little." Her hands trembled as she read. "If you're reading this, you know my heart. I don't need apologies. I just hope you remember. To me, you'll always be my little girl. Love doesn't shout. It waits quietly for the right moment to bloom. This place wasn't just built by me. I only planted the first seeds. Everything else was meant for you." She froze. And from that day on, she was no longer the same woman. Softer, more patient, more present. Not because she wanted to inherit anything, but because she was moved by grace. She helped expand her mother's shelter. Health checkups, movie nights, field trips, counseling sessions. Not for recognition, not for praise, just for the sake of humanity. One day, her mother handed her a folder. "These are the savings account papers and the charity fund. All in your name." She stared at her, stunned. "Why?" Her mother smiled. "Because it doesn't just belong to me. It belongs to the people who still need help. And I need someone young like you to carry it forward. You're quick, capable, and you know how to reach them." She embraced her mother, accepting the trust not out of pride, but with a love that had finally matured. You don't need to be rich to start over. Just don't let your heart turn to stone. You may have been forgotten once, but the light you carry can still warm someone else. One freezing day, her grandson was shivering, lips pale from the cold. She rushed to cover him with her old coat, then tried to take off her own. But her fingers locked up. She couldn't move. She bit her lip, struggled with the buttons. Hands that once carried decades of burden now stiff from arthritis and Parkinson's, no longer obeying her will. She whispered to herself, "What hurts more than being a mother? And not being able to undress yourself to keep your child warm?" Then one day, out of nowhere, her son-in-law appeared, gaunt, exhausted. He wasn't there to apologize. He came to take back his wife and child. She looked at him not with anger, but with a stillness forged from grace. She handed him a sealed envelope. Inside, a handwritten note. "A man who can't protect his family has no right to demand them back. When my daughter was hungry, you weren't there. When she cried, you disappeared. Now you show up. Then wash your hands and get in the kitchen. Feed the others first. As for your wife, forgiveness is her choice, not yours." He stood frozen, fists clenched, eyes glistening. But she didn't glare at him. She just looked at him, like a mother would look at a foolish, lost boy. She poured him a glass of water. "Drink," then put on an apron. "Everyone here helps each other." He said nothing, but did as she asked. That night, after dinner, he quietly washed 100 dishes. No one told him to. No one pitied him either. For the first time in his life, he was taught a lesson, through kindness, that cut deeper than any scolding. People often asked, "How could you not resent your daughter? How could you forgive your son-in-law?" She just smiled, "Because I believe, if I keep the light in my heart, no matter how cold the world gets, I won't go dark." She didn't forgive because she was weak. She forgave because she was strong. She didn't stay silent out of submission, but because she chose to speak through action. Through bowls of soup, through patched roofs, through hands that reached out just as someone was falling. Forgiveness isn't so they can sleep at night. It's so I don't carry their weight one step further. She believed that with all her heart. It's how she stayed grounded after being pushed into the street. How she kept her warmth after being forgotten. How she held on to her faith that people can change if they're loved, just in time. The following autumn, she passed away peacefully, just as she had lived, quietly but with lasting impact. Her funeral was simple, but filled with people. Children, elders, nurses, teachers, former co-workers. Anyone who had ever received a bowl of soup, a comforting word, or even just a warm look. Everyone had a story, but they all echoed the same truth. She held my hand when I thought no one would. She changed my life. Her daughter stood up, holding a letter her mother had left behind. My mother gave others a place to rest, no strings attached. We're all here today because of a woman with scarred hands, who chose kindness over pride. Sunlight poured through the window, illuminating a message painted on the wall. The doors we open are always stronger than the ones we close. She looked up to the sky, and for the first time, understood why she existed. To serve. Her mother didn't leave behind a fortune. She left open doors, silent hugs, unconditional meals. Her daughter once lost had grown, not because of inheritance, but because someone loved her. At the exact moment, she believed she didn't deserve it. Education isn't just in books. It's in how we treat those weaker than us. A child who grows up being held learns to hold others. A mother who is forgiven learns to forgive. Someone once cast aside can be the one to lead others home. Though she is gone, her shelter still glows with light each night. Not just a place to eat, but a place to rediscover trust in ourselves and in one another. If you've ever felt forgotten, don't lose hope, because like her, you too can start again. Not with power, not with wealth, just with a heart that refuses to give up.